Picture this. A person chats to a friend on Messenger about their long day, dramas with the kids, plans for the weekend. "I could use a glass of wine," they write, followed moments later by, "but I got to stop using it to cope with the daily grind." Moments later, an ad appears in their Instagram feed for a wine they had previously viewed on a retailer's website. The ad has a buy button and, despite their better intentions, the bottle of wine is delivered to their door within an hour. The specific combination of image, text and button is unique to that person. It's published nowhere other than that individual person's Instagram stories feed. It responds to their emotions and vulnerabilities. The ad is the product of an algorithmic model feeding on the everyday participatory expressions of users. Their Messenger chat, images of themselves drinking wine at a picnic with friends the weekend before that Instagram has converted into interests data, and search engine history on retailers' websites. This ordinary, everyday experience of advertising on digital platforms illustrates its fundamental features. First, the dynamic, algorithmic flow of advertising on digital platforms is a ubiquitous part of our everyday life. Digital advertising is not just participatory in the sense that we might like and share branded content, but in the more fundamental sense that we generate the data that enables the ad model to tune and customize appeals to us. Second, the ads have become tappable buttons. They are less like ads on television and more like the windows in a mall. Digital platforms realize the long-held ambition of marketers to make everyday life shoppable. We see the ad and we tap the buy button, all in a seamless moment. Third, advertising and marketing on digital platforms is opaque and ephemeral. The ads are only visible to users who've been targeted and only for a moment in time. These are called dark ads because they're not open to public accountability. Digital platforms are now major institutional players in the marketing of alcohol. Meta, with Facebook and Instagram, and Alphabet, with YouTube and Google, have created the two largest advertising businesses in the world, with combined annual revenue of $250 billion. In Australia, where I'm speaking from, this duopoly accounts for over 80% of digital advertising spend. The Australian Competition and Consumer Commission has highlighted the extraordinary and unchecked market power that these companies possess. Public inquiries and testimony in the US, Europe and Australia attest that to reshape digital media in the public interest and make it accountable to shared democratic values, we need to investigate, understand and reform their advertising-funded business model. This is a huge challenge. It requires us to rethink what advertising is, how it works and how we can observe it. On digital platforms, advertisers no longer pay just for exposure to a message. They pay for the platform to algorithmically tune audiences towards certain actions, a purchase, tap, recommendation or like. The mass era logic of starting with an ad and specifying a target is replaced by a continuous tuning of algorithmic flow. For instance, when Facebook and Instagram announced in 2021 that they would no longer allow advertisers to target children on any criteria other than age, gender or location, this sounded like a welcome reform. Under the hood though, this change hardly mattered. Increasingly, the ad model doesn't need targeting criteria. An advertiser starts with an ad, or sometimes just a series of interchangeable components, images, video, text, buttons. They might have age, gender and location criteria, or a customer database. The ad model then dynamically tests and refines the ads, the audiences, and the relationship between them. At no point does the advertiser or platform necessarily need to name criteria relating to the particular preferences, identities, and mood of consumers. But information about all of these aspects of our experience is converted into data that the platform recognizes as patterns. The primary challenge when observing advertisements on digital platforms is that the ads are no longer published. This is a profound change. Throughout the Massey era, advertising was defined by its publicness. Our challenge is to make an algorithmic and dark form of advertising open to public observation. In recent work we undertook with Australia's Foundation for Alcohol Research and Education, we assessed the transparency of advertising on Meta, Alphabet, Snapchat, Twitter and TikTok. We assessed these platforms by investigating whether they made available a public archive of ads published on the platform and stored them over time. We then examined whether that archive was accessible at scale, searchable, permanent, provided information on targeting, reach and spend, and enabled extraction of ads and data for independent analysis. Of the platforms we assessed, only Meta platforms, Facebook and Instagram, have a public archive of advertising for all categories. This means that for all the other digital platforms, advertising of harmful and addictive products like alcohol, gambling and unhealthy food cannot be seen by anyone other than the people directly targeted with these advertisements. But even Meta's archive is extremely limited. Alcohol ads can only be seen in the archive while they're live on the platform. Given the enormous volume of advertisements on these platforms, this makes them very difficult to monitor. To give a sense of that scale, in Australia we observe thousands of unique alcohol ads published every week on Facebook and Instagram alone. In the past 9 months, we have collected over 65,000 alcohol ads from these two platforms published by the top Australian brands and retailers. No digital platform creates a durable, permanent archive of alcohol advertising that would enable observability and accountability. Advertising on digital platforms is dark in a double sense. We can't see the ads or the algorithmic model used to tune them. This is a particular issue when it comes to the marketing of harmful and addictive products, where a key part of accountability is monitoring and assessing harm to people most at risk. The content of ads doesn't matter as much as understanding if vulnerable consumers are being disproportionately targeted. It seems that the more alcohol you consume, the more alcohol-related ad preferences digital platforms generate about you. The more you drink, the more you'll be targeted with ads for alcohol. When we consider that 20% of Australians consume 75% of all the alcohol sold, we can see what an enormous vector for harm algorithmic ad models are and why they must be made accountable to the public. Making platform advertising models accountable to shared public values requires platforms to make their advertising model transparent for routine observation and monitoring. Meaningful accountability depends on systems-level transparency, not just providing individual platform users with partial information on how they're being targeted by advertisers. In 2021, I was part of a team that worked with Vic Health to attempt to track dark, harmful industries marketing on digital platforms to young Victorians. We took a participatory citizen science approach, recruiting 200 young Victorians and asking them to send us screenshots of the alcohol, gambling and unhealthy food ads they saw in their social and digital media feeds. We asked participants to send us at least 10 screenshots over the course of a week. Some sent us over 100. Collectively, our 200 participants sent us over 5,000 ads. The young participants in our study were collaborators who helped us explore, navigate and interpret digital advertising that would otherwise be invisible. 97% of the ads they sent us would not be publicly archived by the digital platform they were published on. As they messaged us the screenshots, we chatted to them about what they were seeing. And when we asked them, 81% of the young participants in our study thought the advertising of unhealthy industries they see on social media should be reduced and more highly regulated. Importantly though, they didn't think this was because they felt personally vulnerable, but rather because they saw these forms of advertising as more broadly harmful and polluting their cultural world. When we look carefully at the collections of ads that participants sent us, we can see how tuned the algorithmic ad model is. Facebook data provided by participants indicates that on average, they had 194 advertisers upload data about them, and the advertising model generated 787 interests about them. Many of those interests were related to alcohol, and we find that the frequency of alcohol-related interests is significantly correlated to regular drinking behaviour in the past 3 months. The ad model combines these alcohol-specific interests with other data about their interests, affects, movements and social networks. When we look at participants' collections of ads, we can begin to see these interests feed an ad model that shapes flows of ads that individuals are immersed in. One group of mostly female participants saw ads that were characterised by perfect scenes of coordinated drinks, food, accessories and fashion. These collections were dominated by ads for premium alcohol products, retailers and venues. The women in these collections drink premium and artisanal spirits, go to cocktail bars, visit wineries and attend live performances. Another group of predominantly male participants saw ads that enjoined them to play the game, maximise enjoyment and seize opportunities. These collections of ads were distinguished by block-coloured backgrounds, usually in black, blue or red. Across gambling, alcohol and fast food ads, they were told to bet now, taste victory and make it count. Throughout the collections, large block lettering dominates the ads, addressing immediacy, liveness, speed and the extension of pleasure. Another group had collections featuring ads that emphasised the convenience of eating and drinking at home. These collections featured carousels of food and alcohol available for home delivery, accompanied by buttons like Order Now, Buy Now and Get Offer. The alcohol advertising in these collections is not for bars, venues or premium brands, but for brands pitched at home consumption, online retail and home delivery. These ads depict consumption of alcohol in the home. What we see across these collections is an algorithmic ad model learning to show particular kinds of alcohol ads to particular kinds of consumers, depending on their gender, affluence, consumption habits and cultural identity. The collections also demonstrate how digital alcohol ads are integrated with online retail. On Facebook, 65% of alcohol home delivery ads, 62% of alcohol product ads, 6% of alcohol venues and 54% of alcohol retailer ads had buttons. And on Instagram, 87% of alcohol home delivery ads, 75% of alcohol retailers ads, 74% of alcohol venues ads had call to action or buy buttons. These platforms are rapidly integrating advertising and retail. The upshot of these observations is that we need to look beyond particular ads and their content to understand both the way consumers are immersed in an algorithmically tuned flow of appeals that are customised to their preferences and vulnerabilities. And we need to understand that the ads are now tappable buttons that enable immediate purchase. Let me finish with a speculative example that helps think about where automated alcohol advertising might go next. Over the past decade, we've begun to think about digital advertising as algorithmic and automated in its capacity to target us. But the model continues to rapidly evolve. We need to prepare for a much more fine-grained tuning of content and audiences in real time. Let me illustrate. This is GPT-3, an AI model that can automatically generate text. It's trained on text scraped from millions of web pages, including Wikipedia and Reddit, and other forms of digitized culture like collections of books. The model has an incomprehensible 175 billion parameters. Applications of this model are still evolving, but one emerging use is to write automated advertising copy tailored for particular audiences. Already, products like Jasper enable automated writing of ad and social media copy. In this case, I asked GPT-3 to write copy for a Facebook ad aimed at parents of young children for a new alcohol product called Afternoon Gin Spritzer, a small bottled cocktail containing gin, botanicals and soda water. Within 10 seconds, the model writes, "Welcome to Afternoon Gin Spritzer, the perfect drink for busy parents. We know that parenting can be a tough gig, so we've created a delicious and refreshing cocktail that you can enjoy any time of day. Afternoon Gin Spritzer is made with premium gin, botanicals and soda water, so it's perfect for sipping on the go. We know that parents need a little break every now and then, so we hope you'll give our Afternoon Gin Spritzer a try. Thank you for being the best parents out there." I changed the task, asking it to write ad copy for the same product, but this time for female college students. And within 10 seconds, the model writes, "Welcome to Afternoon Gin Spritzer. We know that college can be a tough time for young women. You're juggling classes, homework, extracurriculars, and maybe even a job. It's a lot to handle, and sometimes you just need a little break. That's where we come in. Afternoon Gin Spritzer is the perfect pick-me-up for busy ladies on the go. Our small bottles are easy to throw in your purse or backpack, and our delicious cocktail will help you relax and unwind, even if just for a few minutes. So next time you're feeling stressed, remember Afternoon Gin Spritzer. We'll help you get through the day, one delicious spritzer at a time." Okay, so in places this copy is a bit wobbly. You wouldn't address Gen Z college students as busy ladies, I don't think. But let's set that aside. This is GPT-3 straight out of the box, not tuned for this particular context, and it's uncannily good at immediately generating ad copy for a fictional alcohol product for two different audiences. If you took this model and tuned it for a particular use case, for instance, by taking all the ad copy from your existing alcohol products, then it'd get much better very quickly. What I'm trying to sketch out here is the mode of advertising that's rapidly coming into view. One where not only the targeting of ads is automated, but increasingly the creation of ads themselves is automated and tuned to address individual consumers in real time. How do we understand, observe, and regulate a mode of advertising where the content of each ad is being continuously machine-tuned in real time? Let me push this example one step further. If that's text, what about images? We're also seeing the emergence of generative adversarial networks that can produce images from text prompts. Here's me playing with OpenAI's DALL-E 2 model. Again, this has not been tuned to the particular use case for producing alcohol advertisements, but it could be. Here's an image DALL-E 2 generated in under 30 seconds from my text prompt, an advertisement for whiskey on a billboard in a busy city subway as commuters wait for the train home, photorealistic, warm atmosphere, nearby a busker strums a guitar while women look on holding flowers. The synthetic image uncannily conjures the warm ambience of whiskey advertising. The model is deliberately detuned to prevent it from producing realistic faces or text, so it looks a bit glitchy. But the idea is there. An automated model can easily simulate the visual form of alcohol advertising from a text description. Here's an example of using different text prompts to get the model to place bottles of vodka in different visual contexts. Both images here were again generated by the model in less than 30 seconds and hasn't been tuned for this particular use case at all. The first one was generated from this prompt. Packed nightclub, strobe lights, neon lights, futuristic cyborg clubbers in an abandoned warehouse, bottle of vodka sitting on a bar in the background. This second one was generated from the prompt, a bottle of vodka on a bright white kitchen bench beside a gold fruit bowl filled with tropical fruits. Like the text examples, we can see it isn't perfect, but this is day one of the next wave of automated advertising. Think about where targeting was a decade ago, and now think forward a decade to what automated content will look like by the 2030s. Already, we are seeing the development of AI models that generate text prompts for these image-based models. It isn't hard to imagine text-based prompts being generated based on the interests and preferences an algorithmic ad model has attached to us. The words and images in ads could be synthetically customized in real time. I'm not here attempting to paint a dystopian picture, but instead to illustrate the stakes of observability and accountability for advertising on digital platforms. We are rapidly moving beyond the paradigm where carefully investigating the link between particular alcohol ads, exposure and consumption is all that useful. Increasingly, there are no ads to observe or audiences being targeted. Instead, there is the dynamic, continuous process of algorithmically tuning an immersive flow of synthetic ads and tappable buttons for each consumer. And soon, that immersive flow will contain ads whose text, images and buttons are synthesized by automated models. This means we need not just to observe and regulate the ads, but what advertising has become, a dynamic process of algorithmic tuning and synthesis. The era of targeted advertising is turning into the era of algorithmically tuned advertising.